Hello everyone, welcome to our topic Photosynthesis, the secret engine of life. Today we are going to explore a process that provides nearly every living thing on Earth, and it's happening right now inside the green plants all around us. Whether you are aware of it or not, this process is crucial for our survival. So what exactly is photosynthesis? In its simplest form, photosynthesis is how plants, algae, and some bacteria use sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide to create glucose, that's sugar, and oxygen. This is a magical process where light gets turned into life. Let me break that down a little more. It is process plants take in carbon dioxide from the air, water from the soil, and sunlight from the sun. The plants then convert these ingredients into glucose, which provide them with the energy to grow and thrive. And as byproduct, oxygen is released back into the air. Let's think about it for that moment. Without photosynthesis, there wouldn't be no oxygen for us to breathe, and we wouldn't have plants or food sources. Photosynthesis is the foundation of all life. Every single food chain depends on it. If we look closely at this plant cell, we see the chloroplasts are the key players. They are like little bacteria that harness sunlight. Inside these chloroplasts, there are two main parts involved, thylakoids and stroma. The thylakoids are where sunlight is absorbed and transformed into energy. This is where the light-dependent reaction happens and energy is stored. Then, in stroma, which is like the plant's workbench, that plant uses that energy to make sugar in the series of steps we call the Calvin cycle. Here is something fascinating. The green color of plants comes from chlorophyll, a pigment in the chloroplasts. Chlorophyll absorbs blue and red light and reflects green, which is why plants appear green to us. This pigment helps to excite electrons in the cells, which are critical for converting light into energy, usable chemistry energy. Now let's think about how important this process is. Photosynthesis provides us with no oxygen, food, and play a critical role in regulating the atmosphere. It's what keeps the balance between carbon dioxide levels in the air and helps sustain life on Earth. Without photosynthesis, we wouldn't have the oxygen we breathe or the food we eat. So the next time you step outside, take a deep breath and thank the plants for their role in the incredible process. After all, photosynthesis is, without a doubt, the engine of life.
Now, when we know what photosynthesis does, let's look inside the leaf to see how it happens. Here, inside the cells, we find chloroplast, a small green organelle responsible for photosynthesis, the process that turns sunlight into chemical energy. A chloroplast has two main parts, the thylakoid, which looks like a stack of coins called grana, and the stroma, the fluid area surrounding them. The thylakoid is where light energy is captured, while the stroma is where sugars are made. You can think of the thylakoid as the solar panel and the stroma as the sugar kitchen of the plant. Now, let's look at what makes chloroplast green. Chlorophyll. Chlorophyll absorbs blue and red light from the spectrum, but reflects green, which is why leaves look green to us. The absorbed light energy excites electrons inside the chlorophyll molecules, and this energy drives the reactions that produce food. Photosynthesis happens in two main stages. The first one is light-dependent reaction. This takes place in the thylakoid membrane. Here, sunlight hits photosystem 2, exciting electrons that move throughout the chain of molecules, kind of like a tiny electric circuit. As electrons move, water's molecules split into oxygen, protons, and electrons. The oxygen is released, and that's the oxygen we breathe. The energy from the moving electrons help to make ATP and NADPH, which store energy for the next stage. Then comes stage 2, the Calvin cycle, also known as the light-independent reaction. This happens in the stroma and it doesn't need light directly. Instead, it uses ATP and NADPH from the first stage to convert carbon dioxide into glucose. A cycle has three steps. The first one is carbon fixation. Carbon dioxide is captured by a molecule called RUBP. The second one is reduction. The captured carbon is turned into G3P, a 3-carbon sugar. And the third one is regeneration. Some G3P lives to make glucose, while the rest regenerates to LUBP to keep the cycle going. So in the end, The plant takes in sunlight, water, carbon dioxide that produces oxygen and glucose, energy that fuels almost all life on Earth. That's how the leaf quietly and efficiently powers the planet through photosynthesis.
So what happens after photosynthesis creates energy? Sunlight is captured by plants and converted into chemical energy. That energy becomes the engine of every ecosystem. Plants and algae, the autotrophs build sugars and biomass. Herbivores eat that biomass. Carnivores eat the herbivores and omnivores eat both, and humans occupy the top of the chain. When organisms die, decomposers like fungi and bacteria breaks them down and return nutrients to the soil. That recirculated matter feeds new plant growth and keeps the whole system running. We are not operating in an ideal lab. Human activity is interrupting this cycle, and forests show that most clearly. Deforestation is not just fewer trees, it dismantles a global machine that produces oxygen, stores carbon, stabilizes climate, supports water cycles, and sustains food webs. Every year, clearing forests for agriculture and development releases roughly 8.1 billion tons of carbon dioxide. At the same time, standing forests absorb about 15.6 billion tons of carbon dioxide. Those numbers are straightforward. Forests are fundamental carbon sinks, and cutting them down is a direct strike at the planet's ability to regulate carbon dioxide and maintain breathable air. So local consequences, soil erosion, disrupted water cycles, collapsing local food systems, cascade into regional and global harm. Reforestation is a concrete, high-leverage tool to repair the damage when it's done right. Newly planted forests can absorb up to 40 tons of carbon dioxide per hectare annually during their most active decades. Right now, planted forests make up only 4% of global forest area, yet they remove 13% of global carbon emissions. Such disproportionate impact. A relatively small, well-executed increase in reforestation and restoration can deliver outsized carbon removal while rebuilding the biological processes that underpin ecosystems. But not all tree planting is equal. Monoculture plantations and non-native species can sequester carbon fast, but at the cost of biodiversity and long-term resilience. So how do we scale reforestation responsibly? First, prioritize protecting intact forests. Prevention is cheaper and more effective than rebuilding. Second, target reforestation to degraded lands and places where native forest restoration will restore ecosystems function. Third, use native species mixes and restore natural forest structure rather than single species. In summary, timeline and permanence matter. Newly planted forests sequester rapidly in the first few decades, but long-term climate benefit depends on protecting those carbon stocks over centuries.
Beyond forests, photosynthesis plays a huge role in agriculture and food security. Efficient light and water management help crops photosynthesize better, improving soil fertility, plant growth, and yields, the foundation of sustainable farming. For example, farmers use greenhouse technologies and LED lighting to optimize photosynthesis, allowing plants to grow even in low light or urban environments. By controlling light intensity, temperature, and carbon dioxide levels, we can help crops like tomatoes or lettuce grow faster and healthier, even without sunlight. But photosynthesis doesn't just feed us, it also inspires innovation. Scientists are learning from nature through artificial photosynthesis, a technology that mimics plants to turn sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide into clean fuels such as hydrogen or methanol. If perfected, this could reduce global warming and generate renewable energy without fossil fuels. However, current systems are still expensive and less efficient than natural ones, so researchers are working to make them more practical and scalable for everyday use. And let's not forget the hidden champions, algae. These tiny organisms floating in oceans and lakes produce 50 to 80% of Earth's oxygen, more than all land plants combined. They also absorb 25 to 30% of global carbon dioxide, helping slow climate change and forming the base of aquatic food chains. Today, algae are even used in biofuel production, cosmetics, and nutrition, proof that photosynthesis supports not only ecosystems but also modern industries. So whether it's a giant rainforest tree or microscopic plankton, photosynthesis connects every living thing on land, in water, and even in our future technologies. It truly reminds us that the same process keeping a single leaf alive is also what keeps the entire planet breathing.